today's AVST live webinar. We'll be covering our TeamQ call center solution today, and we have Neil Butler presenting. He's our Director of Sales Engineering. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that the slides are available for download. You can find those in the handouts area, which if you have that minimized, use the orange arrow in the upper corner. And you'll find that box as well as the question box. You're welcome to submit your questions at any time. And we will also send a follow-up email later today with the slides as well as the recording once it's available online. So with that, I'll turn it over to Neil.
Thank you, Ann. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, I suppose, for some of you. Thank you for joining us. This is always an interesting topic for us to talk about because it covers an area that pretty much affects every company out there. But we're doing it in a very different way. So I think we have something to say that is well worth your time being here to listen to it today. So first, who are we? We like to talk a little bit about why maybe you should come and join these webinars and listen to us. And I guess all we can really put up there is we've been doing this for a long time. We've been developing communication software for almost 30-something years, and we've been pretty successful at it. We figure we have about 20 million users out there, and we're an international company through OEMs and partners. We basically are selling our solutions throughout the world. And we're a little different. We're not owned by a phone manufacturer or a network company. And as a result, we really have engineered our product architecturally different than anyone else's. And that is because what we want to be able to do is go to any building, knock on any door, and talk about our solutions without saying, here's all the things you need to change in your environment. So as a result, we really are recognized in the industry for having the broadest interoperability. So no matter what you have today, in terms of phone system, groupware, and infrastructure, architecture, anything else, our product's going to work for you. And it's a really nice safety valve because as you change, and we all know, change is inevitable in this industry, you can feel comfortable that whatever investments you make, you get to take forward with you. So if you're an Exchange user and you look at moving to Office 365, or you're a Notes user and you're going to migrate to Exchange, and any of those kind of things have very little effect. Basically, the functionality will move along to those new products and technologies. And that's, I think, an important piece. And the other thing that's probably interesting and one of the reasons why people kind of come and listen to us is the way we built our product is different. We certainly were a telephony company in the early days. We made a voicemail. That put us right in that market. But we were founded by data people. And the data people built that application in the true three-tier data model with a core engine, with applications on top, and connectivity pieces that you could pick and choose from. And that's what gives us our flexibility, and that architecture has done us well over the years. Same architecture, a lot of work, greatly expanded. But that puts us in a lot of interesting places to talk about what kind of solutions we can propose and how easily we can propose them. Now, one of the things about our architecture that really is kind of hard to put on PowerPoint slides is the fact that this isn't a lot of applications bolted together. If you go out and look at, the UC reports, they'll talk about people that sell you all sorts of things, and their PowerPoint slides look like our PowerPoint slides. The big difference is everything we do, we're doing as part of this one application. So if I'm a user and I call in and I use our speech user interface and I log into my mailbox and I'm listening to messages, and someone calls in and uses our speech automated attendance with our Find Me, Follow Me technology that routes the call based on our location, I will actually hear in my ear that somebody is looking for me. These are all tied together, and that makes it very easy to make it the kind of application that a user can understand, and it makes it less expensive because pretty much all these things you see lying across the top in this category are licenses. You simply turn those pieces on if there's something you're interested in using. And one of those is our new TeamQ product. Now I say new, although the TeamQ product is actually a relaunch of a product that we had 20 years ago. And it's a little different, a little more robust, but the concept is really the same. And the concept on this is something we have to spend a little time with before we actually look at the functionality. Because this is a product that doesn't really fit very well into any category that you've probably seen before. We talk about it as an informal call center product for next generation workers. But right away we start by saying we only allow 25 agents in it. And that's kind of unusual because that's not how people generally do it with call center type products. This is not your traditional ACD system. You can have lots of teams, but we expect teams to be small. And the reason for this, you'll see as we go forward, is pretty clear in terms of what this really does. So we can configure this to function like an ACD. Where a call comes in, we'll push that to the longest idle agent. So we have a push model on functionality. But that's not really the strength of this product. The strength of this product is the full model call management that we offer. And this is probably something you've never seen before, and this is unusual. This is actually a skills-based routing full model call management. What that means is the agents get to select the call they're going to take. And in traditional ACD environments, a lot of people would throw up their hands and kind of shriek at that. That's not what you want to do. But let me show you why we do this and how we do it. We're going to give the agent desktop control with a lot of information. And I think you'll see that for certain kinds of work groups, this is a much better approach. We do have a supervisor, functionality. We have reports and call logs and all sorts of things. But don't think so much of this as a replacement for your call center you have today, but as a product that probably goes into places where you didn't deploy your call center. You have little groups that the licensing was too expensive or it didn't really work for what they do. This is going to, I think, fit a lot of those. You're going to find it's very economical because it's just a software license. If we want to send calls to multiple people, in the telephone world we have a number of choices. The kind of first level choice is we can send calls to hunt groups or response groups if you're using Skype or Link as your phone system. And that works okay for some functions. Typically those appear on a hunt group, something along those lines are distributed. And as long as all the people that get those calls do the same thing, they can all handle all the calls, that works okay. Now, if you take that and kind of boost it up, now you have a room full of people doing that, you're going to probably put in a contact center product. There's a lot of fine contact center products out there, multimedia contact centers, traditional, call-based ACDs. They have all the reporting. You can shave a couple of seconds off the calls. And, all those things you do in a contact center. There's a lot of good ways to do this. But what we find is in between there are some of these smaller work groups that don't really fit. A hunt group's not strong enough. A contact center doesn't really give them what they need and can be very expensive. Some of those contact centers are $1,500 a seat every year. And so some people have these smaller groups that they're just not going to deploy that way. And that's where we position TeamQ. We call TeamQ a number of different things. Probably in this presentation it's called 2 or 3 different things. But we do call it an informal call center more often than anything else because we want to make sure that people don't buy this thinking it's the traditional call center. So most of you out there have groups of people fielding calls that are a little different than a call center group. If you think about kind of the 2 ways groups manage their time, you have the people in true call center groups that we would call process workers. Process workers basically say, I'm going to take this call. I know what to do. I'm maybe interfacing with a computer, talking to the caller. I hang up. Maybe I have a little wrap-up time, and then I do it again. And it's a very repetitive piece, and it's all about productivity and handling those calls as quick and as efficiently as you can. They have no personal workflow. Call center agent doesn't take the call and then get up and leave their desk and go to a file cabinet to do some research or go visit somebody at a desk to work on a problem. These are definitely people with just that process flow. But there's also smaller groups that do have personal workflow. We tend to call those knowledge workers. They do the same thing. They answer a phone. They talk to a customer. They handle problems. But as part of that, maybe they do go out on the internet and do some research. They maybe do a desk visit. And there's all sorts of things that these kind of informal groups do that just don't lend themselves to a micromanaged type of call center approach. And this is where TeamQ comes in. So TeamQ is going to deliver functionality in these smaller groups, give you a great ROI. Once again, it's a very inexpensive product. And it's going to be more effective. It still has screen pops, the supervisor interface, and all those things that make it sound like a traditional call center. But this is different. What you're going to find is because of our architecture, this does amazing things and doesn't require any type of special connection on the phone system. No CTI type of connection is required. So once again, we can deploy this on any phone system. A small key system, a large PBX, a cloud PBX, it doesn't matter. If we integrate, CX integrates to it, then this is one of those features that are available to any customer. The next thing we look at when we talk about these, particularly these kind of workers that have process flow, is they're mobile. They aren't necessarily all sitting in one room all the time. And the great thing about TeamQ is as long as they have a Windows desktop client and a phone, they can log in and be part of this group. We'll see how that works down a couple of screens further. But this makes it very easy for you to have agents that work at home, agents that travel, agents that are casual, and they just maybe go somewhere and log in and monitor the queue and just jump in when they need to. It's just a lot more flexible than a traditional, particularly a hardware-based type of call center. So the trick here is, I guess there's two tricks. First trick is we're gonna answer that call, and we're gonna find out about that caller. We're gonna ask them some questions, and then we're gonna display that information, and we're gonna let the agents, based on that information, decide which call it's appropriate for them to take. And we'll see there's all sorts of reasons, why one call is more appropriate than the other. And we're going to give them a lot of other choices besides just taking the call. This is really an agent-managed queue. So let's start at the front end with the caller experience, because it sort of explains how we get to that point where we have the ability to do that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to answer a call. And the very first thing we do when we answer a call is capture the caller ID, because that can be very helpful information. We're starting to build up a set of metadata on the call. This is the first piece. Then when they come in, we're going to play them a greeting. Now at this point, architecturally what's happened, if someone's called a phone number, they've come through the PBX, they've gone into the CX system, and we've answered that call. We're now on a port talking to that customer. So we have a lot of capabilities in our system that can come into play. So we're going to ask them, probably we're going to introduce the queue and then ask them, what's going on. And then we're going to start gathering more metadata, because the goal here is to give the agent as much information as possible about what this caller wants. So in this process, we can ask up to 2 numeric questions. What is your employee number? What is your account number? What is your order number? Up to 2 of those numeric questions. And then we can run 2 multiple choice questions. If your operating system is Windows, press 1. If it's Mac, press 2. If it's Linux, press 3. So now we can go through this and gather this information, and now we have the information we need to start converting it to something that the agents can use. So this person called in, and they're looking for Linux support. So this is an IT help desk of some kind. And so automatically now we know that one of the requirements for whoever takes this call is they have to be able to do Linux support. But we have other pieces of information, and some of them are numeric. And while numeric information is great, it doesn't really tell people that much. That account number there probably doesn't mean anything to the agent. So what we need to do is convert the metadata into useful data. And as part of this system, we have a small flat rate charge where we do what we call a data diff to do this. So how this works, if the call comes in, let's say we get the account number. As part of the installation of the system, we create a data diff that goes into some on-site database. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it has some technology for extracting data. So a web service, a COM API, stored procedure calls we can make. Whatever that is, we basically create a little piece of code that goes into that database, pushes in the number, and pulls back up to 5 pieces of information. So it can be warranty status, anything you want, type of product, all the things that will make useful information for the agent. And now we have all that metadata. So what we're going to do with the caller now is make a decision on how we're going to handle this call and give them some choices. You have a choice right up front if you want to announce their position in queue and their estimated wait time. And this is such a valuable piece of functionality in a traditional ACD. Maybe less so here, because as we're going to see, first in, first out isn't the rule. So they might be number 2 in queue, they might be number 1 in queue, it still might not be one of the next calls handled. The estimated wait time is for the queue, but not necessarily for their particular mix of data. So a lot of times we actually won't play this prompt for them. What we will always play is the choice. We'll say, to hold for a representative, press 1. Now if they do that, we're going to hold that call on a port on CX, and they're going to stay there until an agent selects that call. We'll show that process in a second. We'll say to leave a message, press 2, in which case we can leave a message in a specific mailbox, and we can have that mailbox monitored so that the agents can go get those messages. Or to request a callback, press 3. User presses 3, we basically say goodbye to them, hang up, we cleared the port, with no resources being used, but that call is still in the queue, shows in the queue, and when the time comes to take that call, the agent hits on it, and actually a call is generated back to that user. We connect those up. So it's a way to have maybe more people on hold while requiring less resources. So now I have my queue, and what I happen to have in the queue right now for this IT group are 3 calls. 2 of them are looking for Windows support, probably the most common call that they get in that group. But there's one of them there that's looking for Linux support, and that's a little different. Now this is why this won't work all that well in a traditional hunt group setup, because what ends up happening is somebody answers a call and says, oh yeah, hold on a second, Bob, there's a call on line 3 that needs Linux help. And while it will work in a traditional ACD, it will work only if you're using skills-based routing and you have considerable expense to deploy and maintain that. What's going to happen with our queue is we're going to have some agents, and they have visibility to these calls. We'll see the screen in just a couple of more slides. And so I can basically look as an agent at this queue and see what's going on. And based on my skills and my workflow, I can decide which call is more appropriate to take. So in my case, I'm the guy that does Linux support. The other guys don't do Linux support, so I'm going to take the Linux call, even though that's the newest call in the queue. Because if I go take Windows, I can easily end up where I have idle agents that can't take the Linux call. So it's more efficient, and it's handling things better. The more complex the needs in the queue, the better this really works out. So I now have this call, and as a Linux agent, basically, I'm now working on this call. Now, there's a number of things I might do besides just talk to that caller. Because in this case, let's say it's an IT help desk, and I talk to the caller and there's something wrong, and I hang up with the caller, but I leave the call record open. And then I change my status to research. And then I go out on the internet, and I go ahead and do some research and find a patch for his problem. Or I change my status to desk visit. And I go to the desktop and see what's wrong with the machine. When I'm done, I come back and I clear that call record. So I have personal workflow capabilities beyond just the go ahead and take the call piece. And keep in mind, when I come back, I'm the Linux specialist. If there's only Windows calls left and there's plenty of Windows agents in the queue, I might choose that time to work on a project. Still keeping the queue open, because if another Linux call comes in, I can jump on that. So our ability to kind of monitor the queue is an inherent part in the visual nature of the queue. So once I've got that and the call's in the queue, what happens here is really the difference, I think, in this app, and that is the agents have a screen. And the screen shows all the calls in the queue and all the metadata we pulled. Now, this is a very simple version. Basically, I asked for their employee ID number, and I asked them what they needed help on. I captured their callback number, and then I went in with a data dip, and I took their identification number and brought back their name. Now, I might also bring back their work location, the kind of machine they have. Remember, I have up to 5 pieces of information that I get to bring back. And now if I look at the screen, we can tell Tom, he's on a call, Mark's on a call, Bill's on a call. There's 3 calls holding, and one of them actually says on hold, and the other just says waiting. So the on hold call is interesting. Bill probably called in earlier, talked with Tom. Being a good tech support agent, Tom said, reset the machine and see if that fixes it. And then Tom went and got on another call. So Bill reset his machine, and as so often is the case, it didn't fix it. So he called back in. Tom saw that call came in, highlighted it, and clicked hold. Because that should be his next call. The continuity of a call is kind of important in these kind of issues. So when Tom is done with his current call, he'll take that next call from Bill. And then I have 2 calls waiting that are traditional. Now, one of those calls is at 1 minute and 13 seconds. If I was the manager of this queue, I might have SLAs that this is kind of approaching, and I might say, no, I don't want to have that happen. I highlight the Martin call, I hit the redirect button, and I send that to the priority queue or to a specific extension. Or maybe because I know the queue's so busy, I hit message and I actually force that caller to go in and leave a message. So the management of the queue based on the visual information is really what this application is all about. The architecture is very simple. Basically, you have your CX system connected to your PBX in the traditional manner. That could be a SIP trunk, it could be QSIG, it could be analog ports. We connect with pretty much every technology there is. And when a call comes in, it comes through the PBX, and while the user's in the queue, they are either holding on a CX port, unless they selected a callback, in which case that port clears down. Any one of those calls could be a callback. Basically, unless you highlight them, you can't really tell. Excuse me. But if it is a callback and I click on it, I will then generate a call. So I can handle a callback that's not using a port just as efficiently as one that is using a port. Besides the data dip piece, the other thing we offer is the ability to do screen pops. Now, screen pops tend to, people shy away from these because they tend to be very expensive. They require a CPI link. They require a lot of custom development. We do it different. What we do is allow the agent to generate a screen pop based on the metadata. So in the metadata field, and this happens to be the identification field, as long as there's a way to pop a screen on that agent's phone or on that agent's computer, and that might be, once again, that might be a stored procedure, a COM API, as long as it's accessible, then when we create this queue, we simply put that stream in. If you see that link, HTTPS, my web service, says I'm accessing something called my web service, and I'm passing in the variable customer ID as the input field for that web service. And that will probably be enough so that when I right-click on that call and go screen pop, I'll pop up. And this is just a Salesforce example that we wrote. So this is not automatic pop-up when I answer the call, but this is screen pop-up when I choose to have it, as long as that screen is capable of handling those kind of functions. So now I have a kind of an interesting mix of very high-end call center features, like screen pop, but I'm also missing call center features. And that's why we always want to be careful about people thinking, oh, I'd love to use this and replace my call center. There are things we don't do with this product yet. We don't allow recording. An agent can't record a call. We don't allow supervisor monitoring or break-in. We don't have a reader board, a wall board. So keep in mind, this is really designed for a different kind of group, not the traditional process worker call center. We do have a screen that all the agents can see, including the supervisor, that shows not only the people on the call, but all the people logged in. So in my case, if I was that Linux guy and I'd say, you know, there aren't any Linux calls, let me see who else is logged in, because this would be a great time for me to go to lunch or go on break. I can actually hit this screen, and now I get to see everybody. And that makes for a lot easier for me to make choices. These aren't really call choices so much as what I'm going to do right now. For the supervisor, we have a lot of logs that show current activity. We have a call log, an agent log, and a queue log. And the queue log might be where the supervisor would just go to look real quickly to see what's going on in the queue. And beyond that, of course, we have a full reporting package. So this is the more traditional kind of ACD reporting information that we have. And we have agent, team, and queue activity. And all of them are pretty much the same in the sense they give you all the detail information you want. And at the bottom of the report, there's a nice summary. And these reports can be printed. They can be exported. They can be emailed. Basically, it's a very flexible system. So if we look at what makes this product different, it's really the ability to have information on the screen. And this is information about your customers. And we get it from them and from one of your data systems. So our ability to get numeric information and do a data dip and change that into visual information that's more useful, and we do that with a front-end script that asks questions of your callers, makes this kind of unique. And that whole process of having a call come in to any phone system, we're integrated to the phone system, We license the TeamQ product, and then basically we now have the screen, and the agents drive everything off of the screen. This is something almost every customer we talk to has some area or group where they say, yes, this will be very useful. It is very inexpensive, and so that's a good thing for people that want to deploy it on their small groups. Sometimes it's a bad thing for people that say, oh, well, let's see, an individual agent license is $55 one-time fee, and I'm currently paying $1,500 on my my call center product. I should move. That's a discussion we have to be very careful with. Because once again, you really can't deploy a full-blown traditional call center ATD system using this product. It really is a little bit different. And I always love this slide that marketing puts in. It's certainly an easy add-on to your CX system once you have a CX system. But understanding it takes a little bit of work. Because it is different, it's in a category over time. There is a white paper, and I believe you get this. If not, we can tell you how to get this, where we did look at the ROI for this. The ROI, of course, is excellent because this is not, hardware that you're adding to your system. This is just one more license using all the capabilities that CX has. And we write custom applications that do these type of things all the time. This is just one that turned out to be very, very popular. And so we packaged it up and it's being shipped. And now the slide we all look forward to. So I don't know about you. I certainly look forward to it. Let's see if we have any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Neil. Yes, as Neil mentioned, we will send you a copy of that white paper that has the ROI information on TeamQ. So look for that as well when we send a follow-up email with the recording as well as the slides. Neil, there are a few questions coming in. For those of you who have not submitted a question and would like to do that, you can find the question box if you use the orange arrow in the upper corner of your screen, and you'll expand and you'll see where that is. Neil, first question, how many different queues can be set up?
But you can have up to 50 separate queues. You can have 250 user agents configured, but of course the limit is only 25 of those at one time can log into any queue. Although agents can also log in to multiple queues. Their screen would actually show the calls that are in both queues so they can pick and choose.
Okay, and that was actually another question that came in, which is how many queues can an agent be logged into at the same time?
Yeah, and there's really not a limit there, but keep in mind, the reason we have scaled this the way we do is because this is driven off the screen. And there's nothing stopping us from taking this up, where we can handle 500 agents. But with 500 agents and 200 calls in queue, it just becomes unwieldy. The visual aspect works only up to a certain point, and that's why we have the limits that we have.
Okay, next question. Does the data lookup work in conjunction with UC Connect?
Well, that's a very knowledgeable caller. This whole application is built on UC Connect. So when you buy TeamQ, you start by licensing UC Connect. And for those of you that don't know, UC Connect is our custom applications engine that I referred to. And once UC Connect is there, then you can just add the licenses. And while we may not use UC Connect to do the data dip, because in a lot of cases, something like a web service, we could probably do something more effectively than putting it through UC Connect. UC Connect is there, which means, yes, we can do the more complicated things if we need to as well, just with programming without requiring the additional license.
Okay, let's see here. Next question. Can we provide examples of statistical reports when you send, sorry, this is as part of the webinar follow-up. So do we have examples of, and I'm not sure if this is specific to customer data or if this is the report function. So I'll read it again, Neil. It just says, can you provide examples of statistical reports when you send a copy of the webinar?
Sure. We have a document about the reports we can send out.
Okay. All right. So I'll just make a note of that, and we'll add that to the follow-up if any of you would like documentation. Do we have a cloud version of this solution?
It depends on what time you ask us today. There is currently a project to start deploying CX in the cloud. It's more than a project. even more than a plan. It is something we've committed to do. The current time frame we're hearing is mid-summer, and it looks like to me it's on track for that. At the point in time where we deploy it in the cloud, then yes, all the functionality should be available from CXE deployed in the cloud. You know, the cloud is just using somebody else's computer, basically. So as long as we can connect back into your enterprise to do, like, if you wanted to do a data diff or something like that, then yes, all that functionality would be available.
Okay, another question. Is there MOH treatment for callers on hold waiting for the agent?
Yes, MOH is provided by file. There's 4 sample files that come with it. One's a piano concerto, the other's a violin piece, and I've actually never listened to the other 2. But you can add any WAV file you would like to the system to serve as the music on hold function.
Okay. Great. Okay, thanks, Neil. Unless there's any questions still coming in, I'm just doing a quick scroll. It looks like we got through all of the ones that had been submitted. I will let all of you know if you have any follow-up questions. You can certainly send those to us via email to info@avst.com. And as well, we always have one of our reps follow up with the individuals who attended the webinar, and particularly those who asked questions, to make sure that your question was answered appropriately, and if you have any follow-up questions as well. So just want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us, and as we mentioned, look for a follow-up email with all of the material and resources that we mentioned. So the information about reports, the white paper, which has the ROI info, the slides, and of course the link to the recording when it's available. And I'll go ahead and let Neil give his goodbye as well.
Thank you, Anna. And I just basically echo, thank you for coming. We know this is difficult to carve time out of your day, and hopefully these webinars prove useful. If they do, you can always let us know at info@avst.com. But also, that's a great place to send suggestions to changes. If there's other things you'd like to see us cover, if they're too long, they're too short, you've heard so many by me, you're tired of my voice. All that information.
To learn more about AVST, please visit www.avst.com.